Once upon a time, in a twist I never saw coming, he handed me a glass of water and whispered something that stripped away his facade of authority, revealing the man beneath. That simple act shifted my entire perspective, like a gentle wave reshaping the shore. I'm Mia Thompson, 26 years old, and I grew up in a sleepy little town called Willow Creek, Ohio, where life moved at the pace of a Sunday afternoon drive. Cornfields stretched for miles. Folks knew your business before you did. And my biggest dream was just to land a steady job, maybe buy a little house with a porch swing, and never worry about scraping together rent again. After too many dead-end shifts at the local diner and a string of seasonal gigs at the county fair, I packed up my rusty old Ford pickup and hit the interstate for New York City, chasing that American promise of making it big, or at least making it stable. The Big Apple hit me like a freight train, towering skyscrapers that blocked out the sun, crowds surging like rivers of purpose, and a cutthroat energy that made Willow Creek feel like a distant dream. I pounded the pavement for months, firing off resumes from dingy coffee shops, facing rejection after rejection with those polite, "We'll keep your application on file" emails. Finally, I landed a spot at Quantum Innovations, a buzzing tech startup in Midtown Manhattan. It wasn't glamorous, just an entry-level data analyst role, but it was my foot in the door, a chance to prove I belonged in this concrete jungle. On my first day, nerves buzzing like a swarm of bees, I smoothed down my second-hand blazer from Goodwill and stepped into the open-plan office. That's when I saw him, Victor Hayes. Tall, with broad shoulders and a jawline that could cut glass, he carried himself like he owned the room, which, as the CEO, he pretty much did. Everyone else buzzed around him like moths to a flame, drawn to his success, his sharp suits, and the whispers of his multi-million-dollar deals. To me, he was just the boss, someone to impress with hard work, not idolize. Maybe that's why his eyes lingered on me during the morning huddle. Those early months were a grind. I'd pull all-nighters crunching numbers, double-checking spreadsheets until my vision blurred, determined not to mess up. My coworkers were a mixed bag, some friendly enough over lunch breaks, but most too busy climbing the ladder to notice the new girl from Ohio. They pointed out my mistakes with that fake sympathetic tone, like, "Hey, rookie, you might want to fix that pivot table." One late evening, as the office lights dimmed, and I debated sneaking out before anyone noticed my exhaustion, Victor appeared at my desk, holding a simple glass of water from the kitchenette. "Here," he said quietly, setting it down. "You look like you could use this." I mumbled a thanks, but then he leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried the weight of hidden truths. "You're the only one here who looks at me like I'm just a guy trying to do his job, not a walking ATM." His words hung in the air, vulnerable and raw, peeling back the layers of his polished exterior. I stared at him, seeing not the powerful executive, but a man tired of the masks he wore. He walked away without another word, but that moment echoed in my mind like the chorus of an old country song, long after the office went dark. From there, things started to change, slow as molasses at first. Victor would stop by my desk for quick chats, not about work, but real stuff. We'd talk about our favorite classic rock bands, like how nothing beats Springsteen's storytelling, or the best spots to catch a sunset over the Hudson River. He'd share tips on hidden gems in the city, like this tiny bookstore in Greenwich Village with creaky floors and stacks of forgotten novels. Bit by bit, our conversations shifted from polite small talk to something deeper, like two puzzle pieces finding their fit. He opened up about his life beyond the boardroom, the messy divorce he'd gone through last year, how his ex had left him feeling like success was a lonely throne, and the exhaustion of people only seeing his bank account instead of his heart. I listened, sharing my own stories of small-town struggles and the homesickness that hit me during quiet nights in my cramped studio apartment. In those stolen moments, a spark kindled between us, warm, unexpected, like finding an oasis in the desert of corporate life. Of course, the office grapevine lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. Whispers followed me to the break room. "Mia's got the boss's ear," Must be angling for a raise. Or worse, snide comments about how I was playing the game. It stung, because it wasn't like that. I wasn't scheming. I was falling for the real Victor, the one who laughed at my dumb jokes and made me feel seen in a city that could swallow you whole. One Friday afternoon, as we walked out together toward the subway, he sighed and said, "People are talking, aren't they?" I nodded, keeping my voice steady. "Yeah, but screw 'em. We know what's real." He looked at me then, his eyes soft with gratitude, and my heart did a little flip, like the thrill of a roller coaster drop. The real turning point came during a massive crisis at Quantum. Our flagship app launch tanked spectacularly, a glitch that cost investors big bucks and had the media circling like vultures. Fingers pointed straight at Victor, the guy who'd greenlit the project. He held his head high in meetings, but I caught the cracks, the tense shoulders, the forced smiles. That night, I found him alone in his corner office, poring over damage reports under the glow of his desk lamp. "You don't have to face this by yourself," I said, stepping inside without knocking. He looked up, his usual confidence frayed at the edges, and for the first time, his voice cracked as he admitted how hard he'd fought to build his reputation, only for one flop to threaten it all. "I've always been the strong one," he murmured. "But right now, I feel like I'm drowning." I sat beside him, placing a hand on his arm. Nothing more, just a gesture of support, and told him his value went way beyond quarterly reports or stock prices. In that vulnerable exchange, his eyes met mine with a warmth that pulled me in, like gravity drawing two stars together. From that night in Victor's office, our connection grew stronger, like a river carving a deeper path through stone. We started stealing moments outside work, grabbing coffee at a cozy diner in Brooklyn, where we'd laugh over greasy fries and debate whether blueberry or cherry pie was the true American classic. The office gossip grew louder, but we ignored it, carving out a bubble where it was just us, two people finding solace in each other's company. Victor's confidence returned, bit by bit, as he leaned on me for support, and I found strength in being his anchor, a role I never expected to play in this sprawling city. One crisp October evening, we took a walk through Central Park, the leaves crunching underfoot, painting the paths in shades of amber and crimson. The air smelled of autumn, and the city felt softer, like it was giving us permission to breathe. Victor stopped by a bench near the Bethesda fountain, his breath visible in the chilly air. "Mia," he said, his voice steady but laced with something deeper. "I'm tired of pretending I don't feel this. You've changed everything for me." His words hit me like a warm breeze, stirring emotions I'd kept locked away since moving to New York. I wanted to say something profound, but all I managed was, "You make me feel like I belong here." He reached for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine, and in that simple touch, I felt a rush of affection that made the world feel right. Back at Quantum, the fallout from the app launch lingered, but Victor tackled it with renewed fire, and I stood by him, crunching numbers and drafting reports late into the night. Our colleagues noticed the shift. Some rolled their eyes, others whispered about favoritism, but a few, like Sarah from marketing, gave me knowing smiles, as if they saw the truth behind our stolen glances. I didn't care about the rumors anymore. Victor and I were building something real, something that felt like home in a city that could be so cold. One Saturday, we drove out to the Hudson Valley, escaping the urban chaos for a day. We wandered through a farmer's market in Beacon, picking out fresh apples and homemade cider, laughing like kids when Victor tried to juggle a few and dropped them. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, we sat on a hill overlooking the river. He turned to me, his eyes reflecting the fading light, and said, "I've been thinking about leaving Quantum, starting fresh. Not because of the mess, but because I want a life that's mine, not defined by boardrooms or bank accounts." I nodded, my heart swelling. "Wherever you go, I'm with you," I said, and the words felt like a vow, sealing our bond under that endless sky. As Victor's words hung in the air on that Hudson Valley hill, a sense of possibility bloomed inside me, like the first green shoots after a long winter. We drove back to the city in comfortable silence, the radio playing soft folk tunes that echoed our budding dreams. Over the next few weeks, he made good on his plan, quietly resigning from Quantum with a graceful exit that left the board stunned but respectful. Whispers turned to outright stares as news spread, but Victor handled it with the quiet dignity I'd come to admire, focusing instead on what lay ahead. I stuck with the company a bit longer, tying up loose ends and training my replacement, but my heart wasn't in the spreadsheets anymore. Victor and I talked endlessly about starting over, maybe a small consulting gig for him, drawing on his tech smarts without the corporate grind, and for me, pursuing that online writing course I'd always dreamed of, turning my small-town stories into something shareable. We found a charming little cottage in the suburbs of Westchester County, just a train ride from Manhattan but worlds away in feel. It had a wraparound porch like the one from my childhood fantasies, creaky wooden floors, and a backyard garden waiting to be revived. Moving day was a whirlwind of cardboard boxes and laughter. Victor, sleeves rolled up on his flannel shirt, hauled furniture like a man reborn, while I unpacked our mismatched dishes, his fancy china from the old life mixing with my thrift store finds. That first morning, we sat on the porch with steaming mugs of coffee, watching the sun rise over the neighbors' maple trees. "This is it, Mia," he said, his hand covering mine. "No more facades, just us." His voice carried a tenderness that made my chest ache with joy, a reminder of how far we'd come from that glass of water in the office. Life settled into a rhythm that felt like a warm blanket on a chilly night. We'd take evening strolls along the Hudson River trails, hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing. The latest baseball scores for the Yankees, or how we'd plant tomatoes come spring. Victor discovered a love for cooking simple meals, like grilled cheese with tomato soup on rainy days, and I'd read him drafts of my stories, his feedback always kind and insightful. Friends from the city visited occasionally, surprised at how grounded he seemed, but we cherished our quiet times most. Challenges came, of course, adjusting to a slower pace, navigating the occasional doubt about leaving the fast lane. But we faced them together, like partners in a grand adventure. One starry night, as we lay on a blanket in the yard gazing at constellations, he turned to me and whispered, "You're my anchor, Mia. In you I found the life I didn't know I needed." Tears pricked my eyes as I replied, "And you're my wings, Victor. With you, I finally feel free." Our story didn't end with fireworks or grand gestures, but with the steady glow of everyday love, a shared glance over breakfast, a supportive squeeze during tough moments, the comfort of knowing we'd chosen each other. In that cottage, amid the hum of suburban life, I discovered that true romance isn't about the chase, it's about building a haven where two hearts can truly rest.